All right, so I'm first up with my lightning talk, so I'll get going. So I've called my presentation from backlog to business as usual, but I do question whether there is ever a such thing as business as usual. But I'm just going to start with a bit of a timeline for digital preservation at the State Library. So in December 2014, we purchased Rosetta, which is our digital preservation system. So this was part of an integrated platform for library and archive management. So it included our published and unpublished catalogues, as well as our discovery layer. In July of 2015, we ceased ingesting our digital collections into our DAM. So that was the system we had prior to Rosetta. In July 2016, we went live with Rosetta, and we actually didn't start ingesting again until the end of 2016. In December of 2017, we released Panda, which was what we use for ingesting our content into Rosetta, and I'm going to just tell you what that is in a minute. And then hopefully September this year, there'll be a release for Panda to process our Born-Digital collections. So what's Panda? It stands for Preservation and Digital Access. So it's a bulk ingestion tool developed by the State Library. It was developed using the Agile project management methodology. So this involves subject matter experts like me. So I don't have any skills in software development, but I helped in developing the requirements for the program. The big focus is automation, so automating any processes that we can with this software. The software will create derivatives, so if we're ingesting a TIFF, for example, this will create the JPEG derivative for access. Panda uses the Bagot file packaging format, so we're using this for fixity checks. If it receives older digital collections that are not prepared in that format, it'll turn it into a Bagot format. The software prepares the SIPs for Rosetta. I'm going to tell you what a SIP is in a minute if you don't know. It transfers and also submits those SIPs to Rosetta, and it also logs everything it does. So mainly it replaces the manual preparation of a SIP for Rosetta. So what's a SIP? The Digital Preservation Handbook Glossary says it's a submission information package. So it's an information package that is delivered by the producer to the Open Archival Information System for use in the construction or update of one of more archival information packages and or the associated descriptive information. Simply, it's packaging the files and descriptive information about them in a way that the digital preservation system understands. So prior to Panda, when we're ingesting digitized collections, we're using command line tools such as ImageMagick to create our derivatives. We were using Python scripts for bulk processes. The problem there was we had to manually kick off those Python scripts for each process. Priority collections were also prepared on a smaller scale. So this is manually preparing each file and manually preparing the CSV with all of that metadata for them. So here are some numbers. The one on the left is the number of preservation masters for digitized collections that were ingested in November last year with the manual process. So that's about 36,000. If we look at February of this year, again, total preservation masters ingested using Panda, so using this automated process, it was 192,000. So obviously that automation has made a huge difference in the numbers. If we look at the total files ingested for digitized, so this is all of our access derivatives, including our preservation masters, the numbers are 98,500 for manual, but then Panda is pushing 800,000 files that it's submitted, put into our digital preservation system just in 1 month. The average number of files that Panda can process in a day is 20,000. So for Born Digital, we started ingesting content early 2017. So looking at the last financial year, we can get some solid numbers, and I'm going to show a breakdown of that in a minute. We were only dealing with photographs and oral histories for ingest because that's predominantly what we have collected in the past for Born Digital. And all of the processes for preparing the SIPs was manual. So it's preparing CSV spreadsheets, preparing all of the derivatives, making sure they're in the correct Bagot format. And so it's quite manual and quite labor intensive and very time consuming. So no scripts were used for automating Born Digital SIPs because of issues like no standard file names, because we're getting them from different people. They could be legacy collections. So you won't be able to see any details here, but this is the process of ingesting a Born-Digital collection. So I'm really excited for Panda being released for Born-Digital because it's going to cut out pretty much most of that. I'm just going to give it some files in a spreadsheet, and it's going to create catalog records. It's going to create the derivatives. It's going to ingest it into Rosetta. It's also going to link it to our catalog. So we're getting close to automating that for Born-Digital, and that's really exciting. So here are some stats from Born-Digital Ingestions in the last financial year, which I did personally manually. So master file counts, 3,630. This is a breakdown by file extension. So the total count, obviously you can see there's a lot of photographs in there with TIFFs and JPEGs. You can see we've got some WAV files, so that would be our oral history. Note that that's only 4% of the file count. We have some DNGs, so again, that's some more photographs. Now, if we go by size, look at the WAV files. They're 41% of the size. So that was 373 gigabytes just for the preservation master. And so 4% in count makes up for 41% in size. And so what you're collecting impacts your storage as well. You'll see again, TIFF is quite big there because again, photographs. Now, if I break that down to all of the files ingested, so this includes our preservation masters, includes our access derivatives. This also includes our digital originals. So say, for example, we receive a photograph in a proprietary camera raw file format. We'll normalize that to digital negative, which is an open format, but we do keep that original. So you'll see there's some small numbers for ARW, which is a Sony RAW, CR2, which is Canon, ORF, which is an Olympus RAW file. But again, you'll see TIFF and JPEG are quite highly represented there. Again, you'll see WAV is only 2%. So then when we break that down by size, again, you can see that the WAV files have that huge size and TIFF. And yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. So as I said, is there such a thing as business as usual? For the library, particularly with digitization, it's project-based work. So we often, in a financial year, will get millions of files and hundreds of terabytes worth of data. Born-Digital is a little bit less well, actually it's significantly less in numbers, but it's more complex because it's not in a structured way like your digitized collections are. So going forward, we're going to try and focus a bit more on Born-Digital. So for example, we're going to look at putting more effort into collecting Born-Digital manuscripts. We're trying to automate as much as we can. So Panda is finishing active development at the end of September, but if we have any need to add any more features or anything like that, we still do have that option in the future. We're also looking at reporting and giving an overview of work in progress in the queue for ingestion. So this is for the organization to see what is yet to be ingested. We're also looking at preservation processes within Rosetta. So the focus for us has been getting stuff into the system, and soon we can start looking at how we're going to manage them within the system. We also need to look at reinforcing skills and capabilities. So we're still trying to solidify capacity and capabilities. We've grown skills in-house from projects, and it's transferred to some business as usual. But in terms of capacity, it's largely temporary roles. We do not have a digital preservation department. A lot of the work in the development is cross-divisional. So we do need to look at reinforcing those skills as well going forward. And that's me.